Fans of the hit TV series Gold Rush have watched Parker Schnabel grow from a determined teenager into one of the most successful miners on television. Year after year, he pulled massive amounts of gold from the ground while building a mining empire in some of the harshest conditions imaginable. But behind the giant machines, endless pressure, and risky seasons, one question has followed him everywhere. Just how much is Parker Schnabel really worth? And the truth behind his success turns out to be far more emotional than most people expected. Today, Parker is known as a confident mine boss with an estimated fortune of around $10 million. But people often forget how young he was when everything started. At just 16 years old, his grandfather, John Schnabel, handed him control of the family's big nugget mine in Alaska. While most teenagers worried about school and friends, Parker was dealing with failing equipment, dangerous ground conditions, and the fear that one bad decision could destroy an entire mining season. And that responsibility was much heavier than it looked. For John Schnabel, the mine was never just a business. It was his life's work. He bought the claim in 1984 after surviving triple bypass heart surgery and spent decades slowly turning it into a real operation. So when he trusted Parker with the mine, he wasn't handing over a hobby. He was passing down a family legacy built through years of sacrifice and hard work. Parker later admitted he always wanted to follow in his grandfather's footsteps so badly that he even left college after one semester to return to Alaska and help at the mine. But once the cameras arrived, everything changed. When Gold Rush began filming Parker in 2011, he was only 17. Viewers watched him grow up in front of millions of people. They saw him take risks that scared experienced miners. They saw machines break down at the worst possible moments. They saw him push his crew harder every season. And somehow, the results kept getting bigger. In Season 5, Parker mined over 1,000 ounces of gold. By Season 7, he aimed for 5,000 ounces, a goal many people thought was impossible. But here's what made his story different. The success came with enormous pressure. Behind the gold totals and television fame, Parker was working brutal 12-hour days in freezing conditions. He was often the youngest person in the room, yet everyone depended on him to make the final call when disaster hit. One failed machine could cost millions. One wrong decision could ruin an entire year. And all of that pressure rested on the shoulders of someone barely old enough to drink. But then, just as his career exploded, everything changed in the worst possible way. In March 2016, John Schnabel passed away at the age of 96 after years of declining health. He had survived heart attacks, battled prostate cancer, and still refused to stay away from the mine. Even in his 90s, he continued showing up, giving advice, and guiding the family business forward. People knew his health was fading, but that didn't make the loss any easier. And for Parker, the timing could not have been worse. Around that same period, Parker had just started a new relationship with Ashley Youle after meeting her in Australia. He brought her to North America to experience life in the Yukon and understand the demanding world he lived in. But instead of entering his life during a happy chapter, Ashley arrived during one of the darkest moments Parker had ever faced. In her very first week there, Parker was preparing to bury his grandfather. And the emotional weight of that moment stayed with him far longer than people realized. Parker later admitted that he never fully dealt with the grief. Instead, he buried himself deeper in work. Mining became the one thing he could control while everything else around him felt unstable. On the outside, he looked successful. The gold totals kept rising. His reputation kept growing. But privately, the emotional damage remained underneath everything. And that hidden pressure would eventually affect the people closest to him. What happened next surprised many fans of the show. Ashley quickly became one of the most liked people on Gold Rush. She brought warmth and calmness into Parker's intense world. Crew members said her cheerful personality changed the atmosphere around the mining camp. She adapted to the harsh Yukon lifestyle, handled the exhausting routines, and supported Parker through some of the hardest seasons of his career. For a while, many viewers believed she was exactly what Parker needed. But the relationship was quietly falling apart behind the scenes. In Season 9, Parker publicly revealed that they had broken up. What stood out was how honest he was about it. He didn't blame Ashley. He blamed himself. He openly admitted that he failed to make the relationship a priority and said she deserved better. Later, he explained that he had been struggling emotionally for a long time. The grief over losing his grandfather never fully disappeared, and work had become his escape from dealing with it. But eventually, avoiding those emotions caught up with him. The timing made everything even harder. Ashley entered Parker's life during a period filled with grief, pressure, and non-stop work. Their relationship existed inside a world where nearly every hour revolved around mining deadlines and financial risk. Parker was trying to run a massive operation while carrying emotional weight he barely understood himself. From the outside, he looked like a rising millionaire building an empire. Inside, he was exhausted, overwhelmed, and emotionally distant. And after the breakup, Ashley quietly moved on and returned to Australia, leaving that chapter of Parker's life behind. That painful experience also revealed something deeper about Parker's lifestyle. Unlike many reality TV stars, he has been brutally honest about how isolating his work really is. He spends months every year in remote wilderness areas surrounded almost entirely by middle-aged miners. During mining season, the job consumes his entire life. And even when the season ends, he's already planning for the next one. There's very little room left for normal relationships, stability, or emotional balance. But despite all of that, Parker kept pushing forward. Now at 31 years old, Parker Schnabel stands as one of the most successful miners in gold rush history. Across 15 seasons, he has mined enormous amounts of gold and built a fortune estimated at around $10 million. He continues developing the Scribner Creek claim in the Yukon, a property he purchased himself, and remains one of the hardest working people on the show. In recent seasons, viewers have noticed something else too. Parker has changed. Years ago, he was known for his quick temper and frustration whenever things went wrong. But after years of pressure, mistakes, and personal loss, he became calmer and more patient. During a major machine breakdown that threatened to cost him millions, Parker didn't explode in anger. He quietly focused on solving the problem. It was a moment that showed how much he had matured. And many fans believe that change came directly from the lessons his grandfather spent years trying to teach him. But even with all the gold, fame, and success, Parker has admitted that there's still something missing from his life. He wants a family someday. He wants a relationship that can survive the brutal demands of mining. The real question now is whether he can balance both worlds at the same time. Can someone build a mining empire without sacrificing their personal life along the way? That's the one challenge the cameras still can't answer.